Welcome back, everybody. This is Money Mondays with your host, Ben Suttles, and the Mr. Ferris Musa. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Welcome to Money Mondays, everybody. We do this every Monday, 3:30 Central. And
what are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Every Monday, it's another Monday.
Oh,
lots going on.
My gosh.
Lots going on.
But this is the most fun part of our day, so we do enjoy it. It's every Monday, 3:30-ish. Central Standard, so check it out, and we love it to be an interactive show. So if you've got questions, comments, you've got some feedback, please drop that in there. We love feedback on future shows and topics that we can kind of cover as well. But today we're talking about 1031 exchanges into real estate syndication.
Absolutely. A lot of people ask about this.
A lot of questions about this.
Yeah, so something, we hadn't done any previously. Now we are, right? We have a lot of investors interested in it. So for those that don't know what a 1031 is, right? Long story short, it's a vehicle to be able to transfer capital gains in real estate over into another real estate investment without paying taxes on it. That's the important thing, right? And so if you made $1 million on an investment, if you want to sell that investment, you typically owe tax on your $1 million and some, right? But with a 1031 exchange, you can basically roll it over into another investment and avoid paying the taxes.
Absolutely.
So it's a very, very powerful vehicle. Lots of people use it as a way to continue to defer taxes. And something that, again, we're here to kind of help distill and kind of disseminate some of that information on.
Absolutely. So what qualifies for a 1031 exchange?
What qualifies for 1031 exchange? I mean, typically there's some rules for it, right? So 1031 exchange, you need to figure out what you're trying to do, right? People can 1031 from their own house that they buy into another house, right?
Yep.
And so you can do 1031 from a house to a house. Now, typically in our world, we're talking about 1031ing into other apartment complexes, right?
Yep.
The rule with 1031, typically there's a like for like or better kind of rule, right? So you can't just 1031 from like an oil investment into real estate, right? There's some nuances there.
Yep.
But and it has to be equal or greater value. So there's some kind of catches there. We're not attorneys. We're not experts in it. Please do your own research. But we're here.
Go to Dugan Kelly, Kelly Clark. Who's helping us structure all this.
General on that, right? But ultimately, 1031 into a deal qualifies as long as the operator that your 1031 is willing to qualify, right?
Yep.
Some people have $1 million minimum. Some people have a $5 million minimum. Understand what that minimum is, what they're looking for, and what you can 1031 into, right? That's the important thing. And then ultimately a deal happens, right? So once both sides agree, you can do the 1031. And there's a lot of rules there again, right? You have to have a qualified intermediary that's holding the money, that signs and reviews the stuff. Typically you have your attorneys, you have syndication attorneys, you have the whole structure that needs to happen as well. But it's a very, very powerful vehicle. And yes, you can 1031 into a syndication. Now, you're not in the syndication side, right? You're 1031ing into an LLC that basically, owns the asset, but that 1031 is coming in kind of power pursuit to the rest of the LPs.
Yeah. Yeah, they're owning a portion of the real property, right? So what people kind of get jammed up on is you can't 1031 into a syndication LLC. That doesn't work like that, right? So what you have is the 1031 owns a portion, and all of this can be somewhat negotiable with the 1031 exchanger, right, of the property itself. And then you're a tenant in common, your syndication LLC as a tenant in common with the 1031, and you both own the entity, right? The one nuance that I am going to say beyond the legalities and the legal paperwork, which again, go to Dugan Kelly, he's the one who's kind of structuring a lot of this and can answer any of your legal questions, is going through the lender. Some lenders don't mind 1031 ticks. Some of them do. Some of them might have their own processes. Some of them might have their own requirements too, right? And depending on how big your tick is, they could be required to potentially sign on the loan, which some 1031 people might not want to do, or they could potentially have to go through at least the background and the credit searches, which is not that big of a deal, but it's still a process. And that process also has time that is applied to it. So don't assume that, hey, you're a week out from closing and you got a big 1031 that you're going to be able to cram it through with the lender and the legal paperwork and everything else, because all of this stuff takes time. It's like having an investor from an IRA, right? The IRA investor wants to get it done. Everybody wants it to move quickly, but you have an IRA custodian in the middle, and that IRA custodian sometimes has their own process, and their paperwork could take 2, 3, 4 weeks sometimes to actually get the money funded. So just plan accordingly. The earlier on that you have these conversations and you get this structure in place, and then you notify your lender, the more smooth it's going to go. Right? But it's opened up a different world of equity for us. Traditionally we haven't done it, and we have not done a 1031 of our own cells into additional deals either. But it's opened up a whole nother world of people that are out there, and they've got 1031 money on all kinds of different real estate, and they're looking to park it in great investments. And so here we can come along with a good deal and ultimately are able to kind of get it done. So I guess there's also the question of timing, right? How long do you have to do a 1031?
So there's rules there. I think you typically have a certain defined period. I think
Yep.
90 days to basically pick the investment.
Yep.
Right. So it's called the identification phase, and then there's a certain period. I think another 90 days for it to actually close and
Yeah.
deploy it into. So again, talk to your professional. They will help give you kind of the time constraints around.
Yeah, that qualified intermediary, or really even your lawyer, can kind of go through the nuances of it, folks, right? We're not experts in it. We just recently kind of got exposed to this whole different world. And because people are struggling in some ways to kind of raise money and get deals across the finish line, we wanted to share this strategy with people and let people know that you can get it done that way. But yeah, there's an identification phase where the person has to come in and say, okay, these are the 3 deals that I might potentially invest into. And then there's ultimately a phase where you've got to close and actually fund the deal, right? And that's all done through that qualified intermediary, that's out there. I think, obviously, Madison, and there's some other guys that do 1031s and some other stuff, right?
Absolutely. Multiple guys.
So, and then what's a 1031 tick, right? So again, I kind of alluded to what this was. It's a tenant in common is what this tick stands for, and it's you're owning the deal along with the 1031 buyer, right? And you both have a certain amount of ownership in the real property. Right? So some questions that kind of come in. So what are some of the challenges? What are some of the benefits? Right?
So,
I'd say the benefit, the best benefit for both the syndicator or for the syndicator to start off with is, hey, they don't have to raise as much money, right? They can, if they get a couple 1031s that are worth several $million, that's plenty of potential investors that they would have had to gone out and gotten on their own, right? Which is problematic, takes time, and sometimes challenging. I'd also, so they can get their deals done more effectively. I'd say the benefit to the 1031 person is, hey, they've got a deal baked, it's ready to go. They don't have to go find a deal and go through the acquisition process on their own, which is just another complicating factor. They've already got the syndicator that has something teed up on a silver platter. And then ultimately the biggest benefit of a 1031 is you get to defer your taxes, and then there's stories out there of people doing 1031 upon 1031 upon 1031 and then ultimately passing away. And then they're able to almost essentially, then they get that step up in basis and the property gets willed to their children at no tax. Right? And I think that's where a lot of the wealthy have gotten even more wealthy over the years, right? And there's obviously nuances to doing multiple 1031s in a row, but that's what people are doing. So I'd say those are some of the benefits. What are some of the challenges?
Challenges is just timing, paperwork, a lot more people to agree to, and I think as an operator, there's just always that risk that person doesn't move forward.
Yeah, no, that's probably the biggest risk, right? Because you might say, and it's just like any other big investor, right? You've got somebody that comes in for $10 million. You're all excited. I got this guy or I got this gal for $10 million. What if they don't fund? Right? Then you just burned all that time. And so there is that risk. And so you have to know that that's a big one, a big challenge that you might have to overcome. But I'd also say it is somewhat complicated. There are some nuances to it. Again, that's why you need good legal counsel and you need to understand it and get yourself educated very, very quickly, as far as, kind of the process itself, right? What else am I forgetting, man? 1031s.
Comments, questions, thoughts, please go ahead and ask them. We'll answer them live. I know we had a few more come in. One of them was, I have an old 401k. What's better, self-directed IRA or self-directed 401k? Oh, okay. So yeah, we're going that. I would say, I think, the EQRP concept is kind of more of like a solo 401k, and it sounded a little bit more interesting
than the self-directed IRAs.
Yeah, there's some strengths and weaknesses to both. We can give you referrals to different vendors that know the nuances of both and help kind of speak to it, right? Like Ben said, the EQRP with the Damien, and then as well as we can point you to Juan with Quest IRA. Both great people, smart people that know their business very, very well, and see what's the best fit for you.
And Shannon, if you could drop them in, into the comments and go check them out. It's not for everybody has to go and make those decisions on their own, right? So do your due diligence, understand what your goals are and what you're looking to do in the future, right? And again, there's pros and cons to both sides of it. The good thing about both of those from a syndicator standpoint is that they can all invest in our deals. So we'd love for you to roll it into a solo 401k or a self-directed IRA, because obviously that makes it a lot easier than your traditional kind of corporate 401k, which is obviously, it's limited to typically stocks and bonds. So, any other additional questions?
Comments, questions, please go ahead and ask them. We will answer them live.
Everybody knows everything about 1031s?
I'm trying to think anything else, and maybe one more thing for people to realize, right, is that I think there's a lot of misinformation about 1031s around.
Yeah, that's true.
How can they be compensated or not, and can you make it look like an LP investment? And yes, you can. Now, you have to stay and kind of play by the rules, but you can definitely, there's a lot of ways to play it. And you can actually structure the returns multiple different ways.
And I would say again, folks, it's another high dollar investor, right? You can ultimately, work out structures that are favorable to both sides, right? And you'd be surprised. The tax benefit that these people get far outweighs, at least in their mind, some of these splits. So don't think for a second that you don't have leverage here. Right, they've got a very tight timeline, tight window to do the 1031, and sometimes they might be out of time. The identification phase might be up or is about to be up, and they've got to make a decision. So whenever people are up against the wall, they'll typically be a little bit more flexible as far as the structure goes. So, but again, Doogie Kelly Clark, check that out. So. Oh man, you got your economic roundtable. When's that?
Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central.
Gosh.
So come check it out. A lot of heavy hitters. Should be an awesome time. Really fun, kind of learn from just guys that are.
Man, I'm tuning into this one.
Brandon Turner's going to be there. Ken McElroy, Robert Helms, Neil Bawa, and last but not least myself. So definitely would love to have people attend it. Go check it out.
Yeah.
bit.ly/economic roundtable.
Yeah, so check that out. Are we going to have a recording?
We will send out a recording afterwards.
Yep. So So I know it's a little bit of a tight notice, but go ahead and register if you would at that link, and then we will also be sending out a recording. But these guys are some heavy hitters. We learned a lot at our MFIN conference. We're also adding Ken McElroy into the mix too. But all these guys had a wealth of information about just personal development and building companies, but also what does the future look like, right? And I thought it was so interesting that we said, hey, after MFIN, we want to have something similar to this, and ultimately add in a new face, which is Ken there, and get it done. So that's tomorrow, 6 p.m. Central Standard. Again, bit.ly/economic roundtable. Go ahead and register there. Again, if you can't make it, we will send out the recording. So coming up, oh my gosh, it's that time of the month again. Houston Real Estate Networking Mixer here in Houston. We typically get 100, 150 people out there. It's going to be August 4th, which is this Thursday, 7 p.m. at Pitch 25 Beer Park. Check it out, disruptequity.com/HTX meetup. We're going to have a lot of great people. Ultimately a great opportunity just to network, meet potential partners, meet potential investors. Just network with people that are doing deals in and around the Houston area. And so we're really excited about that. But we just got back from MFIN, and we are launching our next one.
We didn't really talk about that. So we had our Seattle conference, went awesome, a lot of fun, packed house, people had a good time.
Yeah.
As Ben said, the next one's coming up in November 12th in Atlanta.
Oh,
and we'll probably do something cool with one of the properties we have, whether it's kind of the bank building or something else. But definitely check it out.
Actually, we should do the bank building because Kitty's going to be out there too.
No, we kind of talked about it, so we'll do something and just kind of have people kind of go check it out. So.
No. So we might do a little property tour. Still TBD on that, but check this out. www.mfinvestornetwork.com. Put in the early bird, or put in the coupon code early bird. Get $150 off tickets. I mean, we're not even making any money on this stuff, folks. But we're gonna have a lot of great speakers like we just did. Again, last meeting, we actually sat in pretty much the whole time because I was just so blown away by the content that these people were dropping, right? We had Neil Bawa, we had Robert Hounds, we had Tom Wheelwright, we had Brandon Turner. I mean, all these people were just dropping golden nuggets the whole time. But the most, I'd say the most fun part of it is the networking, right?
Absolutely.
You know, so check that out, November 12th in Atlanta, Georgia, where we have properties. So we will probably be doing a property tour as part of this process as well.
Yeah,
Promo runs until August 26th, folks. So this is the best pricing you're going to get. It's just going to go up from here. And Atlanta should have pretty good flight options as well. You know, biggest airport in the world. But check that out. But what's coming up next week? Multifamily investing today. Interest rates, inflations, financing tips. Oh my, all kinds of different stuff that is happening right now. We'll give you the kind of a state of the market, let you kind of ask questions. Come prepared. We're gonna drop some bombs on that one next week. We'll see you then. Money Mondays, every Monday, 3:30 Central Standard.
Look forward to seeing you guys. Thank you.